Howdy, hi, hello everybody, and welcome back. Today we are going to be doing a practice NCE test, as many questions as we possibly can. So hopefully like 50. And I'm going to be sharing it with you guys. So let me go ahead and share. Okay. And the book that we're going to be using is the Helwig book. Study Guide for National Counselor Examination and CPCE Comprehensive Examination. Andrew Helwig, 6th edition. I think this is the newest edition. I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, I've seen a lot of similar questions. So we're going to go with this one. And maybe another day do another one. Any whoosies. I'm not going to be going into vast detail and like showing pictures like I normally do because I want to get through as many questions as possible. But if you're interested in watching a video that does that, you can just go on over to my page, and I have a lot of those. Or Dr. Pam is amazing too. I would recommend her. So which of the following captures the essence of informed consent? Now, informed consent is something that you do at the beginning of a session before the client starts. This could be for group therapy. This could be for individual therapy. This could be for a clinical trial you're trying to do, a study you're trying to do, whatever it is. Informed consent is essential. Now, what is informed consent? It's making sure they know what they're getting themselves into. So the only answer that corresponds to that would be B. So B, telling members in some detail about the nature and the purpose of the group. Again, I'm not going into a lot of detail. So she says, watch me go into a lot of detail anyway. Anyway, number 2, several principles may underlie an ethical decision made by a counselor. Which of the following is not one of those principles? So I believe that this is referencing the first 6 principles. I believe that you have to have the beneficence, non-maleficence, respect of autonomy, fidelity, that kind of stuff. So I literally just said 3 of them. The only one that I didn't say was pro bono. So that is not one of the principles, making this the answer. The other 3 are a big part of our decision-making process. Next. Maria is a 25-year-old Latina woman. She is in career counseling. In reviewing her background, the counselor determines that she has followed the rules and expectations of her close-knit family. She now finds herself in a position of needing to support her family on her own and can't decide between 3 different occupational possibilities, which she has heard about. Maria may be characterized as what? So this one, I remember I was a little bit confused when I first saw it. I was between B and D, so career undecided and career indecisive. So the way that I figured it out was just using common sense, that she couldn't decide. She was undecided about what career path to take, that she has 3 different opportunities. So that is the correct answer. But if we want to learn the difference between the 2, indecisive is not having or showing the ability to make decisions quickly and effectively, or not settling on an issue. And then undecided is simply not having made the decision yet. So she does have the ability to do it. She just isn't able to do it just yet. Just a pick. Think a little bit about her decisions. Number 4. I wrote some more in my journal yesterday. This is the client speaking. I wrote about the strong urge to eat after I visited my mother. I almost went to the store for junk food, but I didn't. Counselor, the urge to eat was connected with your mother. A long silence follows. The probable cause for this client's silence was what? Ding, dong, ding. So this one, they're reflecting back on what you just said, and they're listening and really taking it in. So what is it when they do that? That's emotional or cognitive integration. you might have really hit the spot there. And they're like, yeah, totally. I have found, is my still recording? Sorry, I don't know what happened. I have found that clients will not be shy when it comes to your wrongs. So if you were wrong or you had gotten it wrong and they showed some hostility, then I think that would be very evident. A lot of clients do wait for the counselors to lead, especially shy clients. Something to look out for, but that's not what was happening here. Or at least they didn't give us enough information. Boredom, I also assumed you're talking about something that's deeply personal to you. I don't think you're bored. So C is the answer. Next, 5. European Americans often enjoy benefits without their awareness that people of color do not. This phenomenon is referred to as what? So you are privileged because you're able to have all of these amazing things while other people don't. And because you're without awareness, that's what makes it white privilege. Okie dokie. Next. On a college campus, a group of students of color have been protesting their treatment, alluding to harassing comments by whites and what they believe to be discrimination in the grading system by their professors. 11 of these students have come to the campus counseling center and want to begin a group experience to arrive at some answers and some solutions. The most appropriate theoretical orientation of the counselor assigned to the lead of the group is what? So for this one, you have to think about it in terms of like, what's going to be the most quick, short, effective, because this is a college campus. You have a group of individuals who are coming to you as a group, and they're trying to get this message across. They're trying to understand why this is happening, and they're trying to, I don't know, just like want to know why this is happening. So if we look at psychoanalytic, you're asking that person about their childhood, why they grew up the way they grew up. That has nothing to do with what's happening at the moment in terms of the protesting, in terms of the behavior that is coming from these people. Then we have Gestalt, which deals with unresolved business, which again, you could utilize if you're going about that angle, but because we're talking about a specific type of, this is the behavior that's been happening, this is what we see, this is what we want to treat, it would be a lot more structured. And out of all of these, the most structured one is behavioral. So that is the answer. And all of these explanations are based off of my interpretation. I should say that. My interpretation of what's happening here. Of course, most of the stuff I research and I have read about and I know about, but that's also something to just keep in mind. This is how I learn the content, and I'm not a professor. I am a teacher, but I'm not a professor. All right, let's continue. Which of the following is not an access dimension of the DSM-5 TR? So A, the age of the symptom appearance, B, the medical condition, C, the clinical disorder, and D, the psychosocial and environmental problem. And it wants to know which one is not an access dimension point. So children, though you can, for some, know the ages, and there are criteria in the DSM that say like, this must have been onset before the age of 12 or something like that. There's no dimension that's like, this is the age where this will appear, because it's different. Every single person is different. So the answer for this one is A, the age of syndrome appearance, because it's different. And kids, sometimes like I've seen autism in adults that wasn't diagnosed when they were a child, but they never got the diagnosis. Okay, let's continue. An employment counselor uses a general aptitude test battery, which measures 9 aptitudes important for different jobs. His clients are typically uneducated. Because the counselor is concerned about how the scores stack up against each other and how they would perceive their aptitudes, he interprets the scores of each of his clients blank. I believe the answer to this one was passively. Let me double check. I am correct. Love when that happens. So I also didn't know what impassively meant when I first started studying. I don't remember seeing it, but and that's not a very helpful definition. After I started researching it, it was simply just like a test you're comparing like your own scores basically to your own scores. Let me get what I want. So this is focused on comparing a person's characteristics against their own previous performance rather than against others. Next, number 9. In the last few years, several national surveys have included inquiring about career-related issues. They're very important. These surveys, typically conducted with adults, rely on self-reported data to draw conclusions in a variety of areas. In general, an accurate statement that can be drawn from these recent surveys is what? And I will let you guys read that because I do not want to. Okay, so after you read all of these, one of them must have stood out to you, be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Or that makes sense. The answer to this one is C. The majority of workers would try to gather more information about their options if there was a way to start their career all over again. And I think I just read that and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, a lot of these are common sense, really. Okay, number 10. A licensed professional counselor in private practice is also trained in career counseling and occasionally sees a client for career work. Generally, the counselor receives insurance reimbursements for services she provides for her career clients who are often experiencing anxiety and work-related stress. The counselor assigns the DSM-5 to these codes to these clients, even though the insurance payment for career services is not reimbursable. Which of the following is the most accurate? So, unfortunately, this is fraud. So the answer to this one would be B. The counselor is not okay because career counseling problems are not reimbursable, and that is insurance fraud. It might be tempting because you want to help the client and you don't want to make them pay, or pay as much. But unfortunately, it's not one of them. Next, practicing positive or reinforcing self-statements has been called stress inoculation. Who is the behaviorally oriented theorist who proposed this concept? That is Wolpe. So I don't know if I'm saying his name wrong or right, but he has to do with stress reduction. He has to do with systemic desensitization. And yeah, he's a behavioral theorist. Bandura is social learning theory. Meichenbaum, I believe he is a family theorist, and can't think of Alport at the moment. But the answer to this one is B. Next. 12. A school counselor is interested in demonstrating whether seniors who have jobs receive lower grades and national scores than those who do not work. Let's assume that in the May school year, he finds that approximately 250 seniors worked the past school year and 250 did not. He compares their GPA, class rank, and information and ACT scores. If these indicators were lower for the seniors who worked, the counselor would be tempted to say that the job causes lower indicators. He would be wrong to say this because the study is what? So did he sit down and do actual research with these people, or did he wait for all of this to happen, make an observation, and then say this is it? The latter, right? So that is a post hoc investigation. This is after the fact. You're observing. Also sometimes called an ex post facto evaluation or investigation. KK. Next. 13. Historically, there were many influences on the development of testing movement. Which of the following is not an early influence? The civil rights movement did not make people want to go test or something. It had a lot to do with the wars, like World War One. After the fact, there was a lot of people unemployed, so they did testing for that. They did testing for them to get into the army. They did the Stanford Vignette. Like those are all things that kind of started this whole testing thing. Gender role socialization occurs in most cultures and includes the development of role stereotypes, which may be rigid and fixed. Imitation and identification with the same sex model facilitates the learning of gender roles. Gender role socialization is blank. I'm just a girl in the world. This is a part of my self-construct, my self-concept. The answer is C. Number 15, Jason, the sole source of income in his family, suffers unemployment unexpectedly. As the unemployment continues, a variety of consequences are likely to ensue for him and his wife and their children. Research suggests that what? This one's actually really interesting. But if you think about it, it makes sense. So the answer to it is D. As unemployment continues, his wife will slowly pull away from her circle of friends. And the way that I thought about it was like, if I'm not making any money, or if the family household is not making any money, I'm not going to be going out to go eat with my friends. I'm probably not going to be spending as much time with them because I'm going to be stressed. I'm going to be annoyed. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be trying to make money myself or something like that. So that's why I thought that that made sense. Let's continue. Number 16. In the behavioral group context, which of the following are key terms? So which one of these words go with that EMDR, my brain is filled with it. Key terms that you'll see. So anytime you see like ego, id, any of that, think psychoanalysis, think Freud. Here and now, blocks of energy, think Gestalt. Value judgment, positive addiction has nothing to do with behavior, but self-monitoring and contracts do. 17. Individuals come to counseling for a variety of reasons. An immediate goal for many clients might be to do what? Sometimes they just want to get stuff off their chest and self-disclose. Let it out to someone who's not going to judge, someone who's going to accept whatever they say. 18. A counselor performs premarital counseling in conjunction with a church whose pastor refers couples to her. Ordinarily, the counselor sees the couples together twice, 2 times individually, 2 times together, for a total of 6 sessions. In her second session with Tom, the counselor learns that he has not broken off an affair with another woman who is not his marriage partner. An appropriate response to this would be to what? It's getting hot in here. So this is really important to include in your informed consent. I always tell my couples, I'm not going to hide for you. I'm not going to lie for you because I'm not. Like, I would hate to carry that burden, and I'm sure other people would as well. So you would have told them, like, we said there would be no secrets. What happened to that? And then work on a way of telling his future wife to be together. 19. A counselor educator at a large university studied different counseling modalities for students who came in the counseling center with relationship/self-esteem problems. There was a waiting list to accommodate to all the students. As a researcher, he was curious whether men or women gained self-esteem differently, whether they were seen in individual counseling, group counseling, or small psychoeducational classes. There was also a possibility of an interaction between genders and the kind of services that they offered. These appropriate statistical techniques to use in this situation was what? So, for this one, I finally finished my drink, I think. No, I still have a little bit left. For this one, you're trying to test several different factors to see how they affect something else. So because you have multiple factors, this is a factorial analysis of variance, making the answer B. 20. A 45-year-old woman is returning to the labor market after an absence of nearly 20 years. She does not know what she wants to apply for because she claims she has no skills. Besides dealing with self-confidence, self-concept, and confidence issues, the career counselor will attempt to help to identify what. So she hasn't worked for 20 years, but I'm sure she's got some skills. And our job is going to try to figure out how many of those skills we can apply to the job market and how they could be applied through transferable skills. The answer is D. Next. 21. Accreditation of counselor training programs requires that counseling theories are taught, followed by a developmental process of skill building and application in practica and internships. A key component of accreditation is evaluation of the skill development. This body accredits more counselor training programs than any other. Which one is it? So the only one that makes the most sense here would be B, the Council of Accreditation for Counseling and Related Education Programs. There's marriage and family therapy as well, and there's also the North Central Association, but do they have as much as the whole thing of counselors? No. And then they're not asking about psychologists, they're asking about counseling. American Psychological Association has to do more with psychologists or LPAs. Next, actually, let me make sure that's right. Yes. Number 22. Mookie is in the 2nd grade and appears to have a developmental disorder. His social interaction skills are impaired, and he appears to be inordinarily preoccupied with butterflies and other insects. He can talk at length about this preoccupation. It is possible that Mookie has what, or Mookie? So this sounds like Asperger's disorder to me. Dyslexia, he would be struggling with vocabulary, with words, with numbers, mixing them around. Generalized anxiety, he would be having problems like dealing with normal life things, be occupied with worrying thoughts all the time. OCD, he would be doing rituals, compulsive behaviors, as well as intrusive thoughts. Asperger's is like within the autism fam, and one of the main things is it's a developmental disorder. That's one. They don't do too well with social interaction, and they have hyperfixations on things. So the answer is D. Next, 23. Linda, an applicant for a graduate program in business is a client of mental health is a client of a mental health counselor. One day, the counselor receives a call from the university where Linda is applying for recommendation letters. She listed the counselor as a reference to the graduate school application. An appropriate response by the counselor would be to do what? So you never give out information without permission, unless that person is, if you're in Texas, going to hurt themselves or somebody else, or if there's abuse of some kind for a vulnerable population like the elderly or children that you can break confidentiality with. But apart from that, you always want to ask for permission. So here the answer would be to ask for informed permission, which would be D, I believe. Tell the university they must sign a release of agreement. Yeah. Yep. Next question. 24. A variety of studies have investigated the qualities of effective counselors. Although not definitive, some of these qualities appear to be what? So if you're going to counseling, you're likely going because you really want to be heard. You really want to be understood. And of course, every single person wants to be cared about. So I know why clients get so excited when they're like, "Oh, you remember that?" And it's like from a few sessions ago. Or if they're like, what? Like, how did you know that? How did you guess that? So they want you to be aware of their individual differences. They want you to be aware of who they are, and they want you to care. So the answer to this one is D. Next, 25. To establish its validity, a new test was administered to the same group, which took a well-established test. The correlation coefficient between the two tests was 0.70. The amount of variance amongst the instruments was what? So 0.70 is their correlation. This means that this is how similar they are. So what they're asking you, variance is their difference. What's the variety? 100 minus 70 would be 30. So that is 30%. So then your answer to this one would be A. It's less than 50% because it's 30%. At least that's how I understood it. Next, 26. Client. I just can't stand the thought of letting him back into the house. Counselor. Where is he now? So in general, counselors' responses may be characterized as additive, interchangeable, or subtractive. This counselor's response would warrant a blank on a 5-point scale measuring empathy. So imagine you just said this to your therapist and they respond with this. How empathetic do you think that is? The answer is 1. It's not empathetic. It just doesn't target, I guess, the difficulty, I guess you could say. So you could respond with a response of reflection of feeling, like, that must be incredibly difficult to do. You're faced with an impossible challenge. It sounds like you're faced with an impossible challenge. Something like that. Make them feel validated, good. I know I would feel heartbroken if that were to happen to me, type thing, you know? Next one, 27. In the statement, birds of a feather flock together, the dependent variable is what? I was singing in my head, Birds of a Feather Stick Together from Billie Eilish, but it's all right. So dependent versus independent variables. The way that I remember them is independent variable is something that is independent, can stand on its own. You don't need to do anything to it. It does something to you. Okay. And dependent variable is I am going to depend on my independent variable to see what happens. So when we're talking about like light and a plant, for example, if I put my plant out in the sun, it's probably going to grow. My light, I'm putting it there. I'm letting it be in the sun. That's my independent variable because the light's going to be there no matter what. Unless I change it, which again I can do because it's my independent variable. Versus my dependent variable, it's going to be, did the plant grow or not? And that depends. Was it in the closet? Was it outside? Was it in the, like, what conditions did I put it in? What was my independent variable? And yeah, so for this one, sorry, I went on a rant. Birds of a feather flock together. The birds are already there. They're doing their thing. But the only way the flocking is going to happen is if the birds are together. So here, the flock is a dependent variable because it depends if the birds are together or not. And your birds are your independent variable. Okay, 28. We're doing great, guys. We've made some progress. I'm still debating if I want to do all 50 questions, but we'll see. A part-time clerical staff person has been hired for a private counseling agency. The professional staff has heard that this worker has been perusing computer files of active clients. There is no evidence that the worker has told anyone of this confidential matter. In this situation, the responsibility of the professional staff is to do what? So, this is a new coworker of yours. Are you just automatically going to fire them? Like, no. You want to talk to them, of course, especially as a counselor, but you also want to make sure that they know that this is not, you know, a thing we do. We respect our clients' confidentiality. So the answer to this question is going to be A. You're going to impress the staff person of the gravity of confidentiality of counseling information and train her in appropriate clerical duties. Problems can be solved. Next, 29. Of various counselor characteristics, which of the following has the most impact on counseling success? Well, as a person who just finished her EMDR training, I would say your level of expertness is what will determine if you're successful or not. I like to think of this as a lifelong learning journey for me, as well as for others. And the more you learn, the more ways you can help people, truly. So the answer is D. 30. Counselor, you're wondering whether or not I believe you. Client, that's the same thing that would happen with my old man when I was a kid. I like to give them different voices. This interaction between the client and the counselor suggests the following psychodynamic mechanism may be operating. So I love defense mechanisms. I think I have a whole video on defense mechanisms. In this one, they're transferring their feelings for someone else onto you. So this is transference, B. It would be countertransference if you were, as the therapist, putting your feelings onto them. This doesn't have to be something romantic. It could be something like, oh, this client reminds me a lot of my little brother. Oh, this client reminds me a lot of my great aunt. That's countertransference. And the best way to deal with it is by dealing with it. Number 31. A doctoral student is curious about how bilingual kindergarten children interact verbally with monolingual children of different racial groups. She decides to study this for her doctoral research. A research method which may be the most appropriate to consider is what? Dun, 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 dun. This is an ethnographic experiment. And ethno, think like ethnicity, and we're covered because it's specifically revolved around their ethnicity. So the answer would be A. 32. The counselor determines that the client may more easily discuss painful materials as part of a story or vignette. She decides to administer the thematic appreciation test to help the client in this process. This test is actually really cool. You give the client a bunch of pictures about different scenarios that are happening, and then you ask them to interpret what's happening. Whatever they say is supposed to bring you some insight into where their brain goes, the way that they think. This is a psychoanalytic therapy. D is the answer. The ink blot is Rochalt's. TAT, who did that belong to? My goodness, I cannot recall. Let me look it up. TAT. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. It doesn't say. It doesn't say. Murray. It did say. Henry Murray. Okay, let's continue. Number 33. Which of the following statements about consultation is not true? And I'll let you guys read that for a second. Okay, so the answer to this one is B. Since there is no strong theory or model of consultation, an eclectic approach is best. So this is simply not true. You can choose your single modality, or you can be an eclectic counselor. You can pick which theory modality you want to follow, which one you agree with the most, or which one you think your client needs. There's not, and it might work for one client, it might not work for another client. These are just things that exist. Two things can be true at the same time. What is that? ACT, acceptance, or actually DBT. I think. It's between one of those two. It's a mindfulness-based thing. Okay, next. Therapeutic interventions such as exception questions, miracle questions, scaling questions are most evident in which type of therapy? I love these questions. They are amazing because they're so simple. They give you so much insight. So the way that they work is, let's say you come into my office, you're suffering, yada, yada, yada. And then I'm like, I have a magic wand. I'm going to wave my magic wand over you. What would your life look like tomorrow if you woke up and all your problems were solved? And then you just like get to see what are their goals, what do they want in life, what are they looking for, what would their perfect world look like? And I just love that question. And it's real quick. It's quick. Like solution focused proof therapy. The answer is B. Okay, number 35. Corey identified 6 stages that groups go through. The 6 stages, the first stage is highly leader-oriented and includes group formation and planning. Which stage follows this one? So the stages that I like, I think are from Brown, not from Corey. And that is the forming, the storming, the norming, the performing, and the adjoining. I like them because they sound similar and they rhyme a little bit because they all end the same way. So what I did when I answered this question is I just wrote down those and then I like compared them and I was like, which one is it? Because they have different names, but they're doing the same process basically. So I'm going to go through mine that said the one that wasn't going to be over explaining. I'm going to go through mine and then it'll hopefully help tie into this one. So first, imagine you're going to a group with a bunch of strangers you've never met for problems, deeply personal problems that are happening within your life. You go into this group, and of course, you're not going to know anybody. You're not going to feel comfortable. So you're first going to form the group. Everybody's going to be uncomfortable. The leader, who's going to be like the counselor, is going to be in charge, and it's going to try to lead everything. And then after you form your group, and you start to get to know people, that's when the cliques start to form. And you start to see what are people that I do like, who are people that I don't like. And as you're forming those cliques, well, then after that, you have whatchamacallit, the storming, because you get into arguments with people and you don't really agree with them on this and that. So you let your opinions be known and had. So you're storming, you're fighting. After you do that, you start to normalize it. Everything starts to flow. So we normalize coming here. We realize this is going to be the people we're going to be with for the next like 16 weeks. We got to get through this, yada, yada, yada. And then after you do that, you're perfect. You're performing. You're actually doing what the group is there to do. You are working through issues. You're exploring those interpersonal skills, everything that the group is for. And then following that, I'm going to pause this soon and get some water because my throat is running dry. After that, I lost my train of thought, storming, norming, performing, and then you have adjourning. It's coming to an end. And so everybody starts to get sad. So that's the stages as I know them. I think it's the Brown model. But when you write those out next to each other, they correspond with the names are very similar. So after we formed it and we planned it, we have our first session. We're going to have to orient and explore like what are we here for. So that would be A. Yay. So the answer to 35 is A. 36. A school counselor notices what appeared, I forgot to go get water. I'll go after this one. What appeared to be bruises on a 6th grade girl. In counseling, the counselor recalls seeing the girl in the hallway months earlier. She had a black eye. In response to the counselor's questions, the girl is evasive. Upon continued questioning, she says she hurt herself falling down skating. The counselor does what? One thing you do not play around with, no matter what professional opinion, like I know this because as an educator, we're also told this, is if you suspect abuse, you report abuse, no matter what. So you notify the appropriate authorities of suspected abuse. If they're not abusing their child, that's fantastic. Nothing happens. But if they are and you did nothing to prevent it, well, then something bad could happen to that child. So that's the way that I see it. It's not going to be a bad thing if you're not doing anything bad. Okay. Next, according to Adler and others, birth order tends to result in unique psychological traits and social development. In counseling, birth order can help explain clients' traits and behaviors. Individuals who are carefree, outgoing, and not rule-oriented, and those individuals who are early maturers and high achievers and never dethroned are probably who and who. So you can never be dethroned if you have no one to replace you. So you would be an only child. And then the middle child or the second born who's like usually ignored, they're carefree, they don't really care because the attention's always on like the oldest or the youngest. The middle child really often does get ignored. So the answer to this one is A, second borns and only children. Okay, I'm gonna pause this recording. I don't think I'm pausing the recording actually. Back. Fully rehydrated. Actually, I wasn't. I just filled it up. I haven't drank the water yet. Okay. Now I'm back. Fully rehydrated, ready to continue. We're going to hit 50. I feel it now. We're going to hit it. So let's go ahead and continue with number 38. A high school career counselor had 24 seniors sign up for 3-session job-seeking skills workshops. He randomly assigned 12 students to the job-seeking group and 12 students to the control group. So you already know he's trying to run an experiment. The counselor developed some materials and techniques to be used by the experimental group. In designing this study, the counselor was also concerned about what? So if he's going to give materials to one, our control group, he's probably not going to give the materials to her. He's going to give some kind of different materials to. And what do we call that? It's a placebo effect to the control group, which is the one we're controlling. Next, number 39. People of similar cultural backgrounds occasionally believe that their group is the center of everything, that they set the standard for other groups to follow. This belief is called what? It's literally in the word. Ethnocentrism. Center. Ethno. The answer is D. Ethnocentrism. Number 40. According to Piaget, when a child is egocentric and unable to take the viewpoint of other people, he or she is in a stage called what? So, Piaget has this theory of development. I've gone over in detail in other videos in the one that was like about development. Like there it's labeled. Anyway, I'm not going to go through what every stage consists of, but being egocentric is like you're a child who thinks that, for example, when I was a child, I thought the sun and the moon would follow me everywhere I went. And I would like remember looking up at the sky and just being like, these are my friends. They follow me everywhere I go. Very egocentric thinking, right? This is also before I can think abstractly, before I can come to concrete ideas and facts and logic, right? I'm probably still believing in like Santa and stuff. So this is before I'm operational, making that the answer. B, pre-operational thought. Next we have 41. A middle school principal is curious whether different math teaching techniques result in different and better math learning. She had 3 classrooms of fourth grade math teachers assign different math teaching techniques to 3 teachers to use for the school year. All students completed the same math exam in September as a pretest and will take one again in May as a post-test. Until examining math pretest scores, the principal finds that classroom A, their mean math score is 72. Classroom B, their mean is 88. Classroom C, their mean is 73. In May, after the post-test data is collected, an appropriate statistical procedure for the principal to apply first would be what? So I know that was really long. I'm going to give you guys a second to digest that real quick. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So here we're doing B, analysis of covariance. 2 variances. (42) Which of the following statements characterizes the termination stage of a group? So again, you're telling everybody goodbye. Time is ending. We're reflecting about what we learned and what we experienced and what we're going to take with us to the next stage of life. This is just things you do in a group. The answer is D. Right. Next, 43. An underlying goal of psychoanalytic therapy is to identify and work through the transference the client experiences. 2 therapeutic techniques which may assist in this process are what? So transference, psychoanalytic therapy. What do we think about the unconscious, right? How do we reach that? What did Freud say? Those are your hints. So the answer is C, free association and hypnosis. Next, number 44. Shortly after Christmas, a third grade teacher realized that several students in her class had not established any friendships with other children, although they did classroom activities together when she put them in groups. The teacher could clearly identify some leaders, some loners, and others. So she decided to formally examine the social structure in her classroom and chose what blank as her method for doing this. Sociometry is the answer. A. We're studying social groups. Sociometry. I love those. I love when they're so easy like that. Okay. 45. We're so close. 5 away. 5 away. Following receipt? Recept? Following recept. Following the receival of her bachelor's degree in sociology, Yolanda joined the Peace Corps. Now, at 25 years of age, she is reviewing her employment options by examining her personal goals, needs, interests, abilities, opportunities, and has made tentative occupational choices. In light of Super's developmental stages, Yolanda is blank. So, Donald Super, I believe is his name. He is a career theorist. I think I did a video on him on my Tiki Talk. He has 5 stages that you go through. You first try to do like identification, interest, and all that good stuff. And then you like crystallize your decision-making process. And as you're working, you get better at your job. And then after you get better at your job, then eventually you're stagnant and then you retire, right? So according to him, all of these things happen at these stages of life at certain ages. Now, at the ripe age of 25, it seems to me like she's a little bit behind. I'm sorry. I'm behind as well. That's why I'm laughing. So, yeah, she's behind expectation according to Super, because by 25, you should already have your career lined up for you. And if she's starting from scratch, then according to Super, she's behind schedule. But that is just a theory. I personally don't think that's true. Anywho, let's continue. 46. In a person-centered approach to groups, which of the following dynamics or process patterns is not likely to occur? So person-centered groups are think of person-centered, Carl Rogers, unconditional positive regard, genuineness, empathy, warmth, good things. We're gonna follow like what the client wants, basically go where they want to go. We're not guiding, they're guiding. So we would not practice disputing. D is the correct answer. 47. Defense mechanisms. I don't know if you guys heard that. Somebody just honked outside. It's a little weird. It's 9:30, or I think it's a train actually. Scratch that. 9:03 actually, not 9:30. 47. Defense mechanisms help control anxiety by protecting the ego from demands made by the id and the superego. Which of the following is a defense mechanism? Okay. So for this one, there are several. As I've said, I have a very long video on defense mechanisms, but basically the answer for this one is A. I don't know how else to tell you guys that it's A. It's A. Reaction formation is like reacting the opposite way that you're supposed to. So let's say you're getting mugged and you want to fight them back, but you cannot, like you just freeze. That's reaction formation. Okay, 48. In a private mental health agency, your supervisor asks you to take an individual into counseling who has been her acquaintance for some years. After seeing the acquaintance 3 times, your supervisor asks to see the case file. So that because she referred you. You do what? Remember what I said about confidentiality, guys. We want to protect confidentiality at all costs. If you were to go tell your deepest, darkest secrets to someone, would you want that person to go share them with your friend? Probably not. But just because they've known you for years? An acquaintance? No. So what do? You can ask the client if they want to. Where are we? 49. Okay. With the pressure for accountability, many counseling and mental health counseling agencies ask their clients to complete evaluation forms following counseling. In assessing this self-reported data, it's important to be aware of the what. Them trying to appear better than they are, perhaps. The halo effect. Last one, guys. Number 50. We did it. If you made it this far, I'm so proud of you. The code word is Daenerys Targaryen. Okay. A counselor is about to begin a short-term group for whom generating insight is not an issue. They got it sorted out already. This counselor is most likely to choose what approach? So the answer is B, behavioral or reality approaches. And yeah, that's it. I hope you guys learned something, or at least went through these questions with me and had some fun doing it, got to study together, quiz each other in a way. And I will hopefully be making another 50 questions. I think there's 200 questions. There might be more than 200 questions, actually. Scroll, scroll, scroll. No, there's 200 questions. Okay. So, and here's the answer key. If any of you are like, want to double check if anything is wrong or right. I had it here, but just in case. Because I could also see it wrong or get it wrong. Anyway, that's it. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and all that. Goodbye.